Hi, everybody. I'm Brian Duffy. Welcome to this edition of 19 Newsmakers. It's a weekly streaming show. It's a weekly podcast. This is an opportunity for us and people in the community to really have an opportunity to go out and tell us what they are all about. We bring people in who are making news, people who want to make news, and people who are involved in circumstances in and around our community that are very important to a lot of people. And this week, we're very happy to have Captain Andrew Ferguson, the founder and CEO of Argonaut. And some of you may be going, what the heck is Argonaut? We've done multiple stories here at 19 News about Argonaut, and we're going to get into why it really matters at this point. But Drew, why don't you tell us what is Argonaut, what it is that you guys do?
All right, well, first off, thank you for having me here and allowing me to tell our story of Argonaut. Argonaut is a nonprofit, Cleveland-based company that was founded in 2010. I, with a partner, Doug McConnell, decided we needed to create meaningful real-world opportunities into the aviation and then maritime industries. It started with a group of people that originally were really aiming for the old aviation high school on the Burke Lakefront Airport and trying to bring it back to use. And we thought we had a really good education model where combining both business aspects of what Doug and I were into with the aviation world with the academic opportunities. So between 2010 and about 2015, we did a lot of exploration, worked with different education partners, met with various industry folks, again, initially with Aerospace and then Maritime as well. And ultimately, we partnered with the Cleveland Municipal School District, created, then opened the Davis Aerospace and Maritime High School.
Yeah, that exists right now, but there's some problems there that we're going to get to. And so basically, when I look at what you guys are doing, what you're trying to do, if I can sum it up, is you're trying to give exposure to young people in the city of Cleveland, surrounding areas, to a potential for a job in aviation or maritime. And both of those are massive opportunities, especially right here, especially when you think about our lake. So let's talk about the Davis Aerospace and Maritime High School and CMSD. Let's probe into that a little bit and what that means to Argonaut and the fact that that relationship is going to have to change because of the issues that CMSD is running into right now, and that they are going to have to, I'm not going to say put that on the back burner because you're going to continue to push to do what you had, but you had an internal relationship where you were involved inside the school. Now, because of their cutbacks, it's going to be more of an external role. How much is that going to hurt you, if at all? Or are you just going to try and push right through that?
You know, we always push straight through it. Argonaut was created to develop these, as you mentioned, very immersive exposures, to develop passion and then to connect kids to opportunities in aerospace and maritime. So we're always presented with challenges. Argonaut's number one goal is to champion what's best for our students. Right. We have a different way of learning. We have different approaches to education. And so, you know, right now, the Cleveland Municipal School District is dealing with a real issue. There's funding.
Right.
An aerospace and maritime high school is not cheap.
Right.
While Argonaut does bring in a significant amount of money, it can't overcome, you know, their current financial needs. So I wouldn't say that, you know, we're not getting thrown out, we're not walking away. I think that the relationship is changing. What we're working with them to do, and this is going to happen over the next year, we are going to continue programming through the 26-27 school year. But what we're really doing is exploring where those opportunities remain, that we can still provide the workforce development programming, the immersive programming, and what do we need to either, you know, curtail or eliminate in order to fit into the new structure. So we're excited that we have this year. We're working with Principal Handline, who's our new principal at the Benjamin O. Davis Junior High School, and really identifying what she wants to see continue in the new school. We're obviously going to continue to serve the students who were there last year, who are our sophomore, junior, and seniors.
Right.
But it's not about us going away. It's really about the relationship changing. There's no shortage of jobs in the aerospace and maritime industry.
Right.
So if we are offering two different types of learning to twice as many kids, there's still way more jobs than we'll be able to put kids into.
And it's interesting you brought that up, because that leads me into my question. What high schools and what colleges and universities are all about is preparing kids for life after their schooling years are over. In other words, jobs. Yeah. And we're going to have them here from a maritime sense, certainly with the water economy, the blue economy. That can't go away here in Cleveland, because there is so much opportunity here with the water economy, and that's you are filling that niche, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, it's about partnerships. I always tell folks that Argonaut is the stone soup story. We came in knowing there was a need. We had a rock. We brought in partners who identified areas of opportunity for improvement in their industries. They've identified where the jobs are and where the upcoming opportunities are, and they've worked with us to fill those. And so, Port of Cleveland, for instance, has been one of our greatest partners. Cleveland Water Alliance on the waterfront. So what we do is by working with them on a routine basis, whether it's just operating a boat or planning grants, we figure out where the students can be included in the actual execution of the missions, and then we determine what are the post-secondary, post-high school opportunities that we can help to pay for these students. Port of Cleveland, just this week they've announced this new ferry service that's going across the lake.
To Canada.
Cleveland is a growing maritime economy. We are looking to be the maritime center of excellence in the Great Lakes, and so by having these partnerships that bring together CMSD, that bring together non-traditional educational opportunities, that bring together the operators, the government entities, we are really investing in our future. And what's great is all of these jobs are really fun. I was the type of kid that didn't sit well in a classroom. Right. And so we bring kids together around aerospace and maritime. Let your imagination go wild, right? And then figure out what is it that makes me say, yeah, this is what I could do for the rest of my life.
What it is another opportunity. It's just
Absolutely.
opening. I remember when I did one of the stories with Argonaut, and I talked to a young man who lived in Cleveland for, I don't know, he was 12, 15, 14 years old. He lived 5 minutes away, and the young guy told me he'd never seen the lake. Never seen the lake in his entire life until he joined up into this program, and now, he told me all these grand stories. I'm going to be a captain of a ship, and I mean, how could anybody look at that and go, boy, that's a bad thing?
Absolutely.
I think there are incredible opportunities out there. You got a roadblock with the CMSD, and I know you just told me you're going to push it forward through there.
Not a roadblock.
Right.
It's a hurdle.
It's a hurdle. I got you. There's another hurdle, and that involves the airport down there. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. We'll be right back on this edition of 19 Newsmakers. We're with Captain Andrew Ferguson, the founder and CEO of Argonaut.
True crime lives here. Watch Dark Side of the Land on 19 News Plus.
Hi, everybody. Brian Duffy back with you on this edition of 19 Newsmakers. Today with Captain Andrew Ferguson, the founder and CEO of Argonaut. We got a great explanation, Drew, of what Argonaut is, what it wants to be, what it's become in the last 15 years or so since you founded this organization. And basically, it's not as simple as I'm making it out to be, but you're giving opportunities to young people to decide, maybe I do want a career in maritime, maybe I do want a career in aviation. That kind of wraps it up in a little bow. There's more to it, I know, than just that. But a hurdle, not a roadblock in the way. We talked about what's going on with CMSD and also the closing of Burke, the potential closing of Burke. That would be another hurdle in your way. What would the closing of Burke mean to Argonaut?
Accessible real-world exposures to the industry is what we see as the challenge. If we lose that, daily interactions, the ability to be on the airport, seeing the planes, smelling the planes, feeling the vibration, and being around the people in the industry. And it's not that it completely goes away, but when you have a school in downtown Cleveland and the next closest airport that we could operate at is 30 to 40 minutes away, Now you're talking about removing 1.5 to 2 hours out of a school day, then the 2 to 3 hours for flight training or maintenance training. Where do you fit the academics? Right? And I've had multiple people approach us since this first came out saying, hey, you should move to our airport. And they want us to work in their neighborhoods. Well, this company was founded in Cleveland, for Cleveland. The students I serve are from Cleveland, inner ring suburbs. We absolutely welcome folks from the surrounding communities to come here, but the school is about Cleveland. This is about connecting our kids to these great opportunities, these good paying jobs right here in Cleveland. So, I think there's certainly challenges that it would present, but I'm really optimistic that the announcement of this closure was more of the ringing of a bell. Everyone's coming in to weigh in. I think this administration does a very good job at bringing people together to discuss, what this really means. And so Argonaut has not had a great marketing campaign over our last 15 years. We're very much doers. We go out, we do. You've probably heard about us because someone saw us on the water, and then you went and sought out information. I really hope that with the ringing of the bell and this being our opportunity to say, did you know that these amazing things are happening on the Burke Lakefront Airport? I think the administration is going to say, wow, we didn't know, and let's talk about what this is and how we can both clear the hurdles that we have in front of us and serve our community. Right.
What we should mention is that while your kids get this immersive education in maritime and aerospace, they still have to take health class, and they still have to take math, and they still have to take the core classes to graduate from high school. So when you say we're losing academic time or losing other time, yeah, because now, first of all, it's expensive. You got to put them on a bus and take them out to Cuyahoga County Airport in Richmond Heights, right?
Which is further than that. There's not capacity at Cuyahoga County Airport.
Okay, so where are you going? Lake County?
We're looking out toward Lake County or west toward Lorain.
So that makes it even more difficult. And one other thing I wanted you to talk a bit more about, because when we had an earlier conversation, you talked about this immersive part of this, and you touched on it a little bit. But when you're a football player and you're around a football field, you get a sense what football is. If you're playing basketball and you're on a basketball, you get a sense of what it is. If you want to be interested in airplanes, you need to be at an airport. That's so important, right?
Absolutely. This school is very personal to me because I was not a great student. I don't come from the world of academia. I come from an operational world. Right. I was a pilot. I've been a firefighter, been a boat captain. When I was at Metro Life Flight, flying for them, that's where I recognized that students were really interested in what I did. And I thought back to the mentors that made a difference for me, and the ability to leave school early and go do some hands-on stuff is what got me through school. It is absolutely critical that what we are presenting to our students is A, real, B, not a simulation of what's actually out there.
Right.
The students that are often labeled ADHD or can't focus in a classroom, it's just because of the way we're teaching them. So being in the field, when I say immersive, it's because I really despise one-offs. There's a lot of people who come together and say, oh, we'll take you on an airplane flight. You take them on a plane flight. Now you can be a pilot. Well, no. It takes much more than that. So not only do we need to have that initial exposure, but the students need to feel that they're a part of the airport, that they're a part of the maritime community. They start with a full exposure in the water environment, the maritime environment. That's jumping in a pool. That is going out to Edgewater Beach and spending a day swimming.
Right.
That's paddling, kayaking the river.
Right.
That's getting on a jet ski. In the aviation world, it's getting down to the airport, flying the airplane, taking off, looking out the window and seeing your school, having your classmates line up on the balcony on your first solo, and they all wave and they cheer you on.
Right.
It has to be an intense, immersive experience. If you just train a kid for a job and they don't have passion, they might not be happy, they might not last that long.
Right.
If you start with passion and you get someone to fall in love with it and, to your point, experience it, feel it, like the football player amongst football players, that is where we can teach success, we can develop passion and have kids go into this industry happy, excited, and knowing that they'll be successful.
I'm going to ask you a question that we haven't talked about, and if you don't know the answer, that's fine. Are there other programs like this? How many programs like this are around the country? Is this unique? Is this something everybody's doing?
Not everyone's doing it. It is unique in that we're an aerospace and maritime.
Because we're blessed. with what we have right here.
Yeah, we looked at two great industries that were here. We didn't come in here and create the industries. We looked at the two industries that were begging for employees, and so we built this around those two industries. But when we first started this, we'd worked with the Cleveland and Gun Foundation. We'd worked with Mayor Jackson's administration, and we actually traveled to New York, and we looked at the New York Aviation High School. We traveled to the Harbor School in New York City, which is a maritime-based school. Went out to Seattle, looked at the Raisbeck Aviation High School. We went to Toledo Maritime. So we went and visited each of those schools, and we identified, we talked to the kids, we spoke with the teachers, and we identified what made that school special and what was the magic ingredient to their success. Then we brought it all back. We made it Cleveland-centric. We made it our own, and we launched the school.
Okay. All right. It's a fascinating program, certainly, and it just creates opportunities for kids who otherwise are looking at school and going, I don't know how interested I am in all this. But listen, if I just take care of my business here, then I get to do all this other stuff that I really want to do. All right. This is Captain Andrew Ferguson, the founder and CEO of Argonaut. We'll be right back on this edition of Newsmakers.
First Alert traffic and weather together all morning long. Stream 19 News this morning on 19 News Plus.
Hi, everybody. We're back on this edition of 19 Newsmakers. I'm Brian Duffy with Captain Andrew Ferguson, the founder, CEO of Argonaut. And Drew, I want to ask you a question about, you're training these young people to see if they want to have a career in aerospace, in maritime. Some people may go, well, that's kind of narrow. That's kind of narrow in scope. Not narrow in scope at all for what these kids could do in those industries as they branch. They're not all going to be captaining a ship or flying a plane. That's not the point of this.
Correct. It's a canvas, in aerospace, it's a canvas in maritime. Students who come there, they find some attraction, some level of excitement in either aerospace or maritime. As they explore, they realize that the jobs in aerospace, it could be a pilot, it could be a mechanic, the things that we talk about, air traffic control, flight attendant, but there's also aerospace engineers. There's aviation business, logistics, astronauts. This next generation is probably going to go to the moon, they're probably going to go to Mars. So kids find, they come to it with that sense of exploration. They arrive at the school and they start trying things, and then they develop. And what's actually incredible is, we don't assign kids of which direction they're going. There's no test that says, okay, you're going to be a pilot, you're going to be a mechanic. The kids, naturally migrate into what interests them. And what's amazed me is it's been balanced. Kids can get a free private pilot's license. Students, by attending the school, by attending clubs, by participating, they only have to have a 2.5 GPA. Right. And they can be a pilot. And when I first started school, I'm like, man, we're going to have 40 pilots. Right. But there's only typically per class 2 to 5 pilots. And so other kids find maintenance, engineering, robotics. And it's really incredible how it's worked. And we really are excited about continuing to build it and explore how we can expand this model.
Right. You've run 250 some kids through this program already, through this high school, and we've talked a lot about the hurdles standing in the way, and one of them is the potential closing of Burke. But you think there's something in play there, that you believe there's some options there to keep what you're doing and maybe redevelop.
Absolutely.
To some degree, correct?
Absolutely, and I think there's a lot of smart people at the table. I think that there's supports that we can still bring in to help guide the conversation. But the needs of aviation and aerospace are changing, and so the need to have 2 runways, the need to have a huge amount of space, antiquated navigation systems on the field, those are all changing because aerospace changes. I think that, again, the bell has been rung, the people are coming to the table. I think that there truly is an option where we can meet the needs that the city's seeking out, getting more people access to the water, more green space, but also still having an airport. Right. And I think those two can coexist. And it's funny because, a lot of our kids, I was a kid that stood at the fence with my hands in the chain link and watching airplanes. How amazing it would be if we could actually build a grandstand or a park to where kids could sit and watch planes come and go beyond just the Labor Day weekend air show.
Right. one of the other hurdles that you're trying to jump over and what you're using to do it is a charter school. Because of what's changing with your with the dynamic, I guess is the way to put it, of the school with the CMSD, you're going to open a charter school in 2027. Tell me about that next fall of 2027.
Correct.
Tell me about that and what you're hoping to accomplish, where you are with that.
We've had a very strong dialogue with the Cleveland Municipal School District. Dr. Morgan and I speak regularly, and we talk about the needs of each organization and really identifying is how do we take care of the kids that are there? How do we not only continue the opportunities for the one school that we work with, but how do we get more kids? This isn't about dividing a group of kids in half and saying we're going to start a public charter school and there's going to be a Cleveland. This is about opening the door, for more students to come in and choose the level of immersion they want. In a public charter school, we're still a public school that still has a school board.
Right.
That board will be representative of the industry, of community members, of maybe parents, even graduates. We have
Right.
kids that come back and want to be a part of the school. So that will be a school board, and I think that not every kid wants that immersive experience. They still want to play football, basketball. They want to have the traditional high school experience.
Which they can do.
And they can do that. And I think that that's where CMSD and Argonaut are really working together to say, let's develop two programs where a kid can go to the traditional high school setting, still get their Ohio boater's license, still get a pilot's license, or they can choose the public charter high school down the street that is a really industry overseen opportunity where English, math are going to have some flavor of aerospace and maritime.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the kids are going to get aerospace and maritime at every turn.
Right.
And the sports they might be exposed to are, it might be flying club, it might be, rowing, sailing, working with community partners who offer those programs. So it's just two different approaches. We're very confident that our approach has produced great results. But I think that this is going to be a good experience. I think this transition year, we're both going to work real hard to make sure that we are serving our community best. And I look forward to sitting down with you in 5 years and saying, wow, who'd have thought that this went as well as it did?
Yeah, well, I hope so too. I hope it does, because I think it's a great opportunity for the people in the city of Cleveland, those inner ring suburbs, and I appreciate the fact that you're trying to help. You certainly are.
And again, I love this. I am.
Well, I can tell.
I am that ADHD kid. I'm the OCD kid. Like, I really love working it when you go out with the students and they're on the boat, they're operating the boat for the first time, or if you catch them daydreaming as they're out on the water watching the sunset, you really realize just how awesome the opportunities, experiences that I've had in my life,
Right.
and how awesome the future is for them. So there is certainly a side of it that is self-serving for me.
Yeah,
being
that's
around this
okay.
energy.
That's okay. Well, thank you very much. It's Captain Andrew Ferguson, the founder, CEO of Argonaut. That's going to do it for another edition of 19 Newsmakers. We're streaming on Mondays at 6:30. And then, of course, you can find our streaming show. It lives on our website forever. I don't know how long things live on a website, but it sounds like forever. And, of course, it's there as a podcast as well. Thank you so much for watching.